So, in honor of the upcoming Texas Chainsaw Massacre sequel, reboot, requel, whatever you want to call it, because it's a new Texas Chainsaw, but it's a direct sequel to the original film. These are getting tiresome, but it's new, trending, not just horror in Hollywood, because Halloween, Ghostbusters, blah 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 blah. A lot of films are doing it. So I've decided I'm going to watch all the films in the franchise because this is my little secret. I've only ever seen the original and the 2003 remake. I know, a massive horror fan like myself who's never seen one of the biggest horror franchises. Well, there's always room for change, so let's talk about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Before I get into the meat and guts of the film, get it? Because they're cannibals. I just want to say my praise for Tobe Hooper, the director and writer of the original film, who went on to direct many classics such as Poltergeist, Night Terrors, Life Force, The Mangler, and others. He has always been a massive inspiration of mine, especially with Texas Chainsaw. He made the most out of basically nothing with a very small amount of money, and he crafted a pretty impressive, fantastic movie. So he sadly passed in 2017. So this one's for you, Toby. You are an incredible filmmaker and will forever be in the hearts of the horror community because Leatherface is never going anywhere. He's here to stay. So what is Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Well, I'm sure 99% of people know exactly what the franchise is and who Leatherface is. If not, here's a little crash course. Texas Chainsaw, since I'm not going to keep saying the full name, so Texas Chainsaw works. Everyone knows what it is. Texas Chainsaw follows two siblings who hear reports of their father's grave being defiled. Like grave robbing, cutting up bodies, all that good shit. So they get a group of friends together, and with them they decide to check it out for themselves. And guess where all this takes place? You guessed it, good old Texas. Well, along the way they pick up a hitchhiker, which we all know, don't do that. People are scary, people are sketchy, just don't do that. But he seems shady at first, but not too bad of a human being. Then things get weird real quick, forcing them to pull over, force him out of their van, or not force them, force him out of their van. All this while they're going to their family homestead, and once they arrive, they begin looking around because they need gas, but the gas station nearby didn't have any gas. So they're like, maybe this house will have gas. So they stumble upon a old, creepy, dilapidated home. Little do they know, evil lives there. And no, when I say evil, I am not referring to Michael Myers. I'm speaking of good old Leatherface, the big old chainsaw loving maniac himself. Speaking of Leatherface, why is he called that? Well, because he cuts off the face of his victims and wears their face on his face. It's that self explanatory, it's that easy. And even though he's in it not much, he's kind of the standout role outside of the lead female, Sally, who gives an incredible performance. God bless her. But Gunnar Hanson, who portrays him, he gives off such like a brutish character, but with this childish side to him, since he's constantly grunting or screaming or like moving frantically like a child does, he almost seems like very innocent at times. Like he's unsure of what he's doing, whether it's hurting someone or just like being in the background. He always looks like he's like forgetting or he's not sure what he's actually doing. And that's because his family, oh god, forgot to mention the family. Leatherface isn't the only evil in this movie. There's a whole family of vile, despicable characters, and they seemingly bully Leatherface into this life, which adds a lot to the character because I guess you could do like a family study on it, especially when you consider like each face he wears is almost like a different personality. It's actually really well done, and it's really cool to watch. And of course, with all this evil, once again, not Michael Myers, there's brutality, and shockingly, most of it is off screen. You don't see a ton of gore or blood and guts or the killings. There's implied brutality, which for me personally, it adds to how intense the film is. Because often what you don't see is scarier than what you do see. And tied with the vicious sound design, the film packs a really mean, gnarly punch. And when you first see and meet and hear this vile character, you basically see him just brutalize someone. When Leatherface first attacks someone and you see it and you hear it, it's really brutal. And the sound of the hits are very brutal. Like, I even tense up a bit. It's great, great stuff. And you know what else is great? This film visually. The film looks great. There's some really beautiful shots and framing. I'll probably throw up some of my favorite shots in the video. So it highlights greens and reds while being surrounded by such dull grays and tans of the Texas landscape. And my only complaint is the pacing for the first like 40 minutes is really slow. And it made me think about Friday the 13th, the original film from 1980. Not because both are horror films or slasher films or any of that stuff, but because both use shots of characters just walking or doing like mundane tasks, and they hold that shot way too long sometimes. And it's like they're only doing that to add filler to the movie, to add time, and which also why I think Friday 13th is an enjoyable movie, but at the same time, there's so much padding that it hurts the pacing, and I feel like this is the same way. And even then, this is a short movie; it's only an hour 23, so I understand why they did that, but it's just a very, 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 very minor flaw. It didn't kill the experience for me. It's just a little flaw that I took part in. And besides that minor little flaw, this truly deserves to be hailed as one of the greatest horror films of all time. It's in the top 25, probably top 15. It's brutal, it's gnarly, it's visually beautiful, its sound design is intense. The characters are really nasty people, and you feel for the lead character of Sally. So all the workings of a good horror film are there. This review is all over the place. It's my first time doing this in a while, but I'm glad to be doing this again. I just love talking about movies. I can talk about movies forever. So feel free to leave a comment on your thoughts on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I only do that voice saying that because of the narration at the beginning of the movie. So if you enjoyed me rambling, feel free to like, subscribe, and keep trying to do better and keep being good people.